Welcome to After the Exchange, a podcast from Interior Health, supported by the Canadian Medical Association. My name is Dr. Harsh Hundal. I'm the Executive Medical Director for Physician Engagement, and my guest today is Dr. Carol Ward, a psychiatrist who specializes in the care of our elders. So, Carol, what brought you to Kamloops and into the field of geriatric psychiatry?
Oh, well, Harsh, this is a story, and I think we have to start with the geriatric psychiatry piece first, right?
Right.
Because I've been doing this for, I have a resident working with me today, and we were talking about it. I think I've been doing this for about 31 years.
Wow.
I know I don't look it.
You must have been 13 when you started, or younger.
I was knee-high to a grasshopper. But the story actually starts when I was knee-high to a grasshopper. I was born in the Maritimes. I was born in Moncton, New Brunswick, and lived my early childhood there. I've lived across Canada, but we would always go back for holidays, so the summer and Christmas, and to visit my grandparents. And when we went back, I was surrounded by older people. Funny, kind, older people who love to eat. And they could pack away the lobster. Seriously.
Oh, they got good lobster.
To this day, I have enjoyed working with, and being surrounded by older people. And I still really love to eat. So fast forward to medical school at Queen's University, and one of my first lectures in first year was called the Psychosocial Aspects of Medicine course. And it was given by Dr. Martin Rodenberg. And he was actually one of the first true geriatric psychiatrists in Canada. And while he was presenting, I swear, I think the heavens opened and the sun shone down on me. And I knew I found my people in that moment, and I can still see it. And we had the opportunity to do an outreach visit in Kingston, and I got an older woman, and she was in her 90s, and we'll call her Anne. And I can see her clearly to this day. And I just knew that I wanted to work with older people. And so that's exactly what happened. And my journey has been really fortuitous. I was able to work at 3 different universities, so Queen's, University of Toronto, and Ottawa, University of Ottawa. Work with what I would consider some of the national experts in geriatric psychiatry. They became my mentors, my friends. I worked with Dr. Marie-France Rivard in Ottawa. She became the chair of the Seniors Working Group for the Mental Health Commission of Canada. And just kindred spirits. And so my early career was in Ottawa with Marie-France Rivard, and then moved to Kamloops because we had the opportunity to open up Hillside Center. And I'm married to a psychiatrist.
Paul.
And Paul. And, that's an interesting story in and of itself, because I live with someone who I respect so much in many ways, but as a leader, as a teacher, as a psychiatrist. People always joke about, 2 psychiatrists sitting around a dinner table and their kids. Our conversations are about education and kind of leadership and systems. It's kind of interesting when you think about it. And so had this opportunity here at Hillside Center, and then it kind of just, snowballed from there.
Wow. Tell me a bit more about that epiphany, because that's what you experienced. That's the genuine epiphany. And when I talk to other physicians, a lot of them say, there was a moment when I stood in the castle in Salzburg and there's this ray of light and I knew I wanted to be a physician, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that still guide you, that feeling?
Every day, absolutely every day. I mean, I actually wanted to be a teacher. I actually started out in teaching in undergrad and switched to medicine. But there's not a day that goes by where I don't thank my lucky stars that I found my people. And we have an opportunity to teach medical students here. So Dr. Barbara Prestava and myself do that, third-year medical students with the Southern Medical Program. And we realized that we started off our session by telling people how much we like to work as geriatric psychiatrists.
Wow.
And that's true, and that's true every single day. It's true here at Hillside Center with the team that I work with here. It's true when I go to long-term care and work with outreach nurses. There's an energy, there's a kinship, there's a creativity, there's a person-centered trueness to the field. And that's actually, I think, what led to the development of pieces by a colleague of mine back in 1998, who really got me into geriatric psychiatry, Dr. Ken LeClaire. So, yeah, it's never disappeared. There's
Wow.
not a day where it's disappeared.
So you brought up pieces, right? And that brings in that thread of medicine and that teacher within you. So tell me a bit about that development of pieces. Why pieces, and where did that journey take you?
So PIECES is an acronym, and it's an acronym that describes a way of thinking about a problem. And it was created by a colleague of mine, Dr. Ken LeClaire, who was Dr. Martin Rodenberg's resident.
Small
So
world.
I met Ken as a medical student because I knew that I wanted to do geriatric something. Initially, I thought it was geriatric medicine, then I thought it was the double neurology psychiatry, but I met Ken, and he consolidated it for me. Ken has been a true national leader in geriatric psychiatry in this country. And it was his idea and his colleagues to develop this approach to thinking about why people behave the way they do in the moment, why older adults behave the way they do in the moment when you consider the complexity of what they bring to the table. And what he actually did was to take our approach in geriatric psychiatry, our biopsychosocial approach, the teaching that how we approach an interview, a consultation, and developed an algorithm in a way of how to think about that, how to break it down into basically 3 questions. And that's the 3-question template for PIECES. It started in 1998. It was supported by the Ministry of Health, who really wanted to see something happen in long-term care. And it has lived a life ever since. Ontario has had a true dementia strategy ever since 2000. They have the Behavioral Supports Ontario strategy. They've actually invested millions of dollars into dementia care in the province of Ontario. But I grew up I worked in that system, and we contributed team members to the development of PIECES. And so I've been a PIECES champion ever since it was developed. And it became a core part of what we taught. And it really does resonate with people. It really is something that people can grasp quickly and hang their hat on. What has changed? What are the risks and possible causes? That is the PIECES acronym. Each letter stands for a reason why somebody may be behaving the way they do. And it includes a person's history. It includes their story. It includes what is meaningful to them. It includes the importance of trauma in people's lives, as much as it includes the physical problems. And then it allows you to formulate a way of communicating what you find into an action plan and to prioritize your risks very, very upfront and center, and develop an approach how to integrate investigations, the non-pharmacological, the non-drug, the meaningful activity that you need to know about, approaches to dealing with somebody's trauma, for example, and then at the very end, medication. And so I brought that learning, that's me, to Kamloops when we came to help open up Hillside Center. And I presented on that quite early on here, and it resonated with people. And so we were able to find money here at Tertiary Mental Health to bring it to Tertiary Mental Health in 2012, and develop a steering committee to do that. We called it the Kamloops Integrated Pieces Project, because we brought not just tertiary mental health, but community, acute care, long-term care, and Thompson Rivers University to the table. The continuum of care for older adults, and trained facilitators. That got picked up by the province, and they bought the license. Then we had bought it for Interior Health, and then they bought it for the province and focused on long-term care. Then I had the opportunity through some funding through UBC to bring that to tertiary mental health provincially. And we kept it rolling here in Interior Health. So we've trained over 1,000 people at least in Interior Health over the years. And we are still delivering pieces. And it forms the core of every rounds that I do here with our team. We are all pieces trained here. And so we have developed a way of understanding, learning, and communicating in a very efficient way about the folks that we see.
Right. So, you get the whole person, but you're also talking about the whole system around that
Yes.
person, bringing it together.
Yes.
Just for
Yes.
clarity, what are the 3 questions?
So what has changed?
Right.
What are the risks? And risks is an acronym. Wandering, so roaming, suicide, kinship, which is the aggression piece. What are the possible causes? PIECES, physical, intellectual, emotional capabilities, environment, and social. And then what is the action? So those are the 3 questions.
And we can attach a link to people so they can connect and learn more about pieces. It's fantastic. So there you are in Kamloops, tertiary mental health in a health authority that is the size of Texas, 22 acute care facilities, 32 to 34 emergency rooms, over 60 communities. How do you build community across such a large area?
So I think you have to make the most of your opportunities and look for opportunities. And so, we started here at Hillside Center. So our goal was to create a center of excellence in tertiary mental health, and that included geriatric psychiatry. And we have a 12-bed geriatric psychiatry unit. And we have a very specialized team. We sit at the top of the pyramid, but we support all of the acute care facilities in Interior Health and Northern Health. And because I had opportunity to work with the province, to work with provincial tertiary mental health, to work with long-term care, in parallel, we brought the pieces language to all those systems. And so now you're able to communicate across systems. And in other work that we've done provincially, we've been consistent. So we were able to do some work with the provincial government to help support the writing of the BC BPSD guidelines. So we ensured that the language was consistent.
Great.
And then we had the opportunity to take some work that Elizabeth Antefo and I had done, which is the BC BPSD algorithm, and expand that provincially, but still keeping the approach and language consistent. So you'll see the pieces language is threaded through all of those initiatives. And the tools that we promote have been threaded through all of those initiatives. So that there's now some commonality in how we're approaching, ideally, complex older adult issues.
So in terms of meeting those complex adult issues, you're involved in Project Echo. Some people may not be familiar with that. So just, what is Project Echo and what has it allowed your team to be able to achieve?
So this is cool because this is where the story comes together. I was asked to present at the Geriatric Services Conference in 2017. I had not heard of ECHO prior to that. I met one of my original mentors and colleagues, Dr. David Kahn. He is actually one of the co-chairs, along with Dr. Ken Leclerc, of the Canadian Coalition for Seniors Mental Health. He was a very early mentor in my career, and he actually signed off on the award that I got from the CCSMH that we talked about earlier. And we walked to a conference, and he told me about ECHO, how he works at Baycrest, and he was just so excited. And these are the people that you meet that I've met in geriatric psychiatry over the years. I've known David for almost 30 years. His excitement has never wavered. And so here we are walking, and he's telling me about Project ECHO. And they're doing an older adult ECHO throughout the province of Ontario. And I'm going, this makes so much sense. It is a virtual tool that we could use to reach rural, remote, First Nations communities and sit in Kamloops. It just, right? Because we are the size of Texas. We've got a few mountain ranges. We are dispersed, but we get Wi-Fi. And so it just, to me, made a lot of sense. And we were involved in a project with the Specialist Service Committee for BC, the SSC, and we had some funding left over. And I said to the folks, well, do you think we could fund a small pilot project for Project ECHO, which was developed in the University of New Mexico by Dr. Aurora back in, I think, about 2010. And it has become the #1 virtual platform educational process for doing remote education. And we didn't have enough money, but I put the word out. I heard about Dr. Matt Berkey up in Williams Lake, who were writing a proposal to get funding for ECHO. Matt comes from the States. He knew about ECHO. I called him up. I said, I think we could do this if we combine our funding. And so we did. We brought the rest of the SSC funding together. We brought Matt's funding from the Ministry of Health, Emergency Relief Fund, based out of the wildfire support funds. And we put together Project ECHO for MHSU that covered child, older adult, and adults. We did 9 sessions. So ECHO is a way of, again, thinking about a problem in an organized and structured way that occurs over Zoom. So we've been using Zoom for some time. And it allows participants, which are called the spokes, to interact with the hub where the specialist team and specialists are. And it allows for some mini didactic teaching by a specialist. But it allows for the participants, in our case, family practitioners, nurse practitioners, to bring forward cases to present to the group. And then the structure of echo allows for problem solving using everybody's input, not just the specialist. The priority is hearing from the spokes, your colleagues that are dealing with the same issues. And we focused on rural, wildfire-affected areas in interior health. Each session is about an hour and a half. There is feedback from specialists as well, and we provide written recommendations. And, you know, I've had the great privilege of working with awesome project coordinators. So Petra for ECHO, Mary Lou for many of the other, all the other initiatives that I've been involved in. And so the pilot was pretty successful. Our evaluation was quite robust and positive. We applied to the Red Cross for continuation. So we've had funding extended by and supported by the Canadian Red Cross. And so we are wrapping up our second ECHO project. It'll finish in March of 2021. And hopefully we can sustain that energy within interior health, and are thinking of a way to try to do that through, I think now, support through MHSU.
And MHSU is Mental Health and Substance Use portfolio, the network. I want to go back to the elders that surrounded you in Moncton that you get such joy from, right?
The good eaters.
The good eaters. How are the good eaters doing now? Has your relationship changed with the good eaters as you encounter them in your life?
Well, you know, so, you know, unfortunately my grandparents have passed on, and all of my favorite folks from back then have moved on, as I have, you know, moved on and aged. I think that, you know, I think I'm still able to find the funny with people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To connect on that level. I still love to hear people's stories. I like being a detective, because I think ultimately that's kind of what we are as physicians. Yeah, so I think, again, from a day, we have a lot of, you'll hear a lot of laughter here, as even though we're dealing with some pretty serious issues, I think we can still find the funny, you know, appropriately. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I always think that you know a good team, a good group, when there's playfulness.
I agree. Playfulness and allowing for creativity.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, we were talking a little bit about secret sauce, and you know, some of the new business language is very interesting, where companies aren't calling human resources anymore. They call their departments talent. And I think that's such a positive shift. I think people bring talent. You've got to be able to nurture that talent. You've got to be able to acknowledge that talent. And that was something that Dr. Rivard instilled in me very early, that it's really important to acknowledge what people do right.
You work with medical students, the new talent, right?
New talent. Yeah.
The new talent. As a nurturer of talent, what would be your advice to them, and what are your hopes for them?
My advice is to try to always remain curious. Don't jump to conclusions. Be curious over multiple domains. And I think that's what Pieces has taught me over the years, because it, again, provides a checklist of curiosity that you really have to think about when you're trying to address a complicated problem. It's multifaceted. And so that is my advice, generally, in the big picture, to students.
And what is your hope for them as they develop as they grow up?
Oh. Well, my hope is that they'll all become geriatric psychiatrists. I mean, geriatric psychiatry in my lifetime has grown into a recognized subspecialty of the Royal College.
Right.
And that happened in 2012. And so I wrote my geriatric psychiatry fellowship exam in 2013.
Oh my God.
And there were people older than I writing that exam.
How appropriate that should be given it's geriatric psychiatry.
There were geriatric people writing the geriatric psychiatry exam.
So, speaking of geriatric, as my 21-year-old son refers to everyone over the age of 30 as ancient.
Oh. I think middle age starts at 74, so we're good.
It shifts, right? Yeah, you and I are of a similar age, right? And probably at a similar phase in our career. Where do you see the future for you? What are your hopes?
Well, ultimately we will transition onto another phase, and I don't know what that's going to look like. My hopes, though, for interior health would be that I think that we need to really start looking at health prevention for mental health and older adult health. And I just want to put a shout out to the Fountain of Health, fountainofhealth.ca. So these are colleagues of mine that are really starting to look at this concept of prevention, and how you can make change. You can make change as an older person, and that can have profound positive health effects. I think that from a health authority perspective, for sure, I think we have to really, and we have in the COVID time, started to think about how you use technology to reach out. And in our geography, I think that is super important. And I would really like to see it roll out for long-term care for those facilities that are rural and remote. And so have started to do that work to get experience on how it works. And I think there's great potential there. I'm also super excited that there's discussions about developing a residency program for psychiatry in interior health with UBC. I truly hope that that happens. I think that there'd be nothing but positive outcomes for interior health by training people here. We've seen that with the family practice residency program. My familiarity is the one in Kamloops, so I'm involved with that. So I think, and of course, I do feel very passionate about ECHO. I think that it is an excellent way to educate using technology.
And it really is a mechanism for knowledge transfer, teaching,
absolutely,
and building community and building capacity.
Building community. It builds community because it's not just a one-way street when it comes to education. When you're thinking about ECHO, you're looking at the experience in the room. People that have boots on the ground working in similar, geographic areas that have to manage very complex problems alone. And so that sense of community has been very obvious when you sit in on ECHO sessions over time.
So Carol, I don't think you're going to rust away, right? I mean, here's this passion, here's this love for our elders, here's this embracing probably the biggest period of rapid change in the history of medicine that we're living through right now. I mean, our focus is COVID, but COVID's actually driving a lot of things that we felt should have changed, and to really focus it on the whole person, the whole family, the experience. I'm certain we're going to hear more from Carol Ward in all kinds of different ways. So I
think it's been fabulous.
I think it's been great. So the award that you were given was from the Canadian Academy of Psychiatry, and it's for your efforts in the field of geriatric mental health and addictions. And I think it's powered by love.
I think it's powered by love too. I think that, as I said, in the geriatric psychiatry community, there are what I call kindred spirits. And I've had the great good fortune, both in Ottawa and Kamloops, to be supported, work with kindred spirits. There is that energy. And I so appreciated the time that everybody took, including yourself, Harsh, to support that award from the Canadian Coalition of Seniors Mental Health. And yeah, it just made my heart sing, really. And as I said, the award was signed off by my original mentors at the beginning of my career. And for me, it just brings it full circle. They did good work, I think.
They certainly did, Carol. And with that, I just want to thank you for agreeing to have this conversation with me. You approached it as something that's going to be fun, and I think we've had a great time today. And I just want to acknowledge the work of all the individuals across Interior and across Canada who are involved in this really important area of supporting our elders, right? Yeah. It's not, quote unquote, a white coat clinical field. It's very much the way medicine is lived and people live. And it's meeting them where they
are. Geriatric psychiatry, yeah. Geriatric psychiatry is in good hands. There are brilliant, brilliant, committed younger folks coming up through our formal accredited training process across almost every university in Canada.
Wow. Such a huge change in a few years.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So once again, I want to thank people for listening in on this podcast that's been made possible through the Canadian Medical Association. I want to again thank my guest, Dr. Carol Ward, geriatric psychiatrist, her experiences and her thoughts. And I wish you all the best and be kind. Thank you.